Hello, night owls. I am Dusky Nights, and I bring you real-life horror stories that will help you sleep, or maybe keep you awake. But before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Also, do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel.
I was out in the middle of nowhere last summer, digging through dirt like I'd done 100 times before. My job as a field researcher took me to remote sites, places most people would never bother visiting. This one was called Willow Creek Basin, a stretch of rocky hills and dead grass about 3 hours from the nearest town. I'd been there for months with a small team, sifting through soil for anything worth noting. Old arrowheads, broken pottery, the usual stuff. Nothing exciting, just long days under a scorching sun. That morning, though, I was on my own, working a patch near a crumbling ridge. The air was still, heavy with heat, and my shovel hit something hard. I brushed away the dust and saw it, a faint glow, pulsing under the surface. At first I thought it was a fluke, maybe a piece of quartz catching the light. I kept digging, careful not to break whatever it was. The glow grew brighter, sharper, until I uncovered a chunk of amber about the size of my fist. It was flawless, deep orange with thin golden streaks running through it like veins. I held it up, squinting against the glare. Something was inside, trapped in the center. Not a bug or a leaf like you'd expect, but a shape I couldn't quite make out. My hand shook a little as I turned it over. The longer I looked, the more it felt off. I should have left it there, buried where I found it. But I didn't. I slipped it into my pack and headed back to my trailer. Back at camp, the day faded into a quiet night. The others were already asleep in their tents, and the silence pressed in around me. I set the amber on my folding table under the weak light of a battery lamp. Up close, I could see it clearer. A tiny figure, no bigger than my hand, curled up inside. It had wings, thin and folded tight, like a dragonfly's. But the face, that face stopped me cold. Too many teeth crowded its mouth, sharp and jagged, pulling its lips into a twisted grimace. Its eyes were black voids, no whites, no depth, just endless dark. I told myself it was dead, preserved for centuries. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling it was watching me. The wind picked up outside, rattling the trailer walls, and I kept staring. I decided to study it closer. My tools were scattered across the table. Small chisels, a magnifying glass, a notebook. I figured I'd document it, maybe sketch the details before reporting it in the morning. I tapped the amber lightly with a pick, testing its surface. Nothing happened at first. Then a faint crack split the air. I froze, my breath catching. The amber trembled just for a second, and I saw it, a twitch from inside. Those black eyes blinked. I dropped the pick, stumbling back. The crack widened, a thin hiss escaping like air leaking from a tire. The figure shifted, its wings flexing against the amber's walls. It wasn't dead. It was waking up. Before I could process it, the amber shattered. Shards flew across the table, and the thing inside sat up. Its spine snapped into place with a sound like breaking sticks, loud in the tiny trailer. It turned its head toward me, slow and deliberate, those teeth glinting under the lamp. A low growl rumbled from its throat. Not animal, not human, something else. I couldn't move. My mind screamed to run, but my legs wouldn't listen. Then it sprang. Fast, too fast. It hit my face, claws sinking into my cheek. Blood ran hot down my neck as I swung my arm, knocking it off. It landed on the floor, wings buzzing, and came at me again. I grabbed a metal thermos and smashed it down, buying just enough time to lunge for the door. I made it outside, slamming the trailer shut behind me. The night was pitch black. No moon, no stars, just the hum of its wings cutting through the silence. I ran to the supply shed, a rickety shack a few yards away, and barricaded myself inside. My face throbbed, sticky with blood, but I barely felt it. All I could hear was that sound, scrape, buzz, circling the shed. It moved along the roof, then the walls, testing for a way in. I crouched behind a crate, clutching a rusty crowbar, waiting for dawn. Hours dragged by, the noise never stopping. I kept picturing those eyes, that grin, wondering what it wanted. When the sky finally lightened, the buzzing faded. I peeked out. Nothing, just empty ground and my wrecked trailer in the distance. I didn't stick around to check. I grabbed my bag, left the amber pieces where they fell, and drove straight out of Willow Creek Basin. My face was a mess. One eye swollen shut, a gash running from my temple to my jaw. But I didn't care. I stopped at a gas station miles away, scribbling a note on a napkin. Don't touch the amber at Site 14 near the ridge. It's not safe. I left it taped to the pump, hoping someone would see it. I quit the job that day. No explanation, no goodbyes. The team probably thinks I lost it. Maybe I did, but I know what I saw, what I felt. That thing wasn't some fossil. It was alive, waiting, trapped until I set it free. I still hear that buzz sometimes, faint in the back of my mind, like it's not done with me. I've moved since then, far from those hills, but the memory lingers. I keep my doors locked, my windows shut even in summer. I don't dig anymore. Don't even look at rocks the same way. If you're ever out in a place like Willow Creek, poking around for creepy discoveries or haunted artifacts, listen to me. Leave the amber alone. I was sitting at the kitchen table last night, sipping tea, like I always do, when I felt her presence again. Life in my family has never been normal, not the kind you see in movies or hear about from friends. It is a weight I carry every day, something I cannot escape, no matter how hard I try. People might laugh if I told them, might call it a tall tale, but I swear it is real. If you were born into a house like mine, you would feel it too. Not right away, but over time, creeping in like damp through the walls. The women in my line we have always known. My grandmother knew. My mother knows. And now I do too. This thing, this shadow over us, it never goes away. The story started long before I was born, passed down through hushed voices over cups of tea, late at night. No one knows the exact details anymore. Each telling gets a little fuzzier, a little stranger, but the bones of it stay the same. Hundreds of years ago, one of my ancestors, a woman trapped in a bad spot, caught something powerful. Not a genie in a lamp like you might picture, but something close, a being forced to offer her a deal. She asked for her daughters, and all the daughters after, to have endless chances to change their fates. It sounded perfect, a gift that would keep giving forever. She could not have known how it would twist. She could not have seen the trap she set for us all. The deal came with a catch, one so cruel it still takes my breath away when I think about it. Sure, the women in our family get those chances, wishes you could call them, but only one each. We live our lives, grow up, learn the world, and then, when we are old enough to know better, we use it. One wish, one shot. After that, it is over. We do not get sick. We do not go broke. We do not feel the aches and pains most people do. Until that moment. The second those words leave our lips, our time runs out. It is not magic in the fairy tale sense. It is a quiet, cold promise. Say the words, and you are done. That is the cursed family legacy we cannot shake. From the time I could talk, my mother made sure I understood the rule. Never say those two words together. I want was fine. I hope was safe. But I wish was forbidden. She was strict about it, fiercer than I ever saw her with anything else. I remember being little, barely tall enough to see over the counter, babbling about toys or candy. If those words slipped in and out, her face would change, hard, unyielding. She would grab a sewing needle and prick my tongue just enough to sting, or scrub my mouth with soap until I gagged. One time, she held up a tube of glue and said she would seal my lips shut if I did it again. It was harsh, but it worked. I learned to fear my own voice, to watch every word like it might betray me. We have this journal, though, a worn, leather-bound thing that follows us no matter where we go. It is full of faded ink and scribbles in languages I cannot read, a map of every mistake my ancestors made, every wish they spoke, every consequence they faced. It is all there. Some wished for small things, a warm meal, a safe trip, and others tried to outsmart the curse, only to fail. The journal never gets lost. It always turns up, no matter how far it strays. My great-aunt wished for that, thinking it would help us. It did not. It just sits there, a reminder of the haunted traditions we cannot escape, a record of every time someone thought they could win. I flip through it sometimes, wondering who will write my page by. The strangest part is how normal life feels otherwise. Money is never a problem. Jobs come easy. Bills get paid. Sickness skips us. Colds, fevers, broken bones. They do not touch us until the end. We could go on forever, untouched by time if we never spoke those words. But forever is not what it seems. My mother told me about her cousin who tried it, wished to live always, never aging. It worked at first. Then her skin started to sag, her bones brittled, her insides failed, but she kept going. Decades passed, and she was a shell begging for it to stop. Her sister had to wish her out of it, and the next day she slipped on wet grass and broke her neck. That is when we learned you cannot cheat it. The unseen threats wait for us, patient and quiet. Every day I go through the same motions to keep her at bay. I brew tea, black with a hint of mint, and set out a plate of shortbread, just like my mother taught me. It is an old custom, a trick to bind her to the rules of hospitality. When she comes, she has to sit, sip, and smile. She shows up in a long coat, her hair sleek and dark, her teeth too bright against her pale face. She is polite, almost kind, offering me favors, money, luck, a way out. I turn her down every time, saying her visit is enough. She nods, but that smile, it is sharp, like she knows something I do not. Lately, the eerie rituals feel heavier. She is here more often, once a day turned into twice, then every few hours. Last night, I saw her shadow in the hall just minutes after she left. I cannot keep this up much longer. She is everywhere now, outside my window, by the stove, in the corner of my eye. I catch her watching me when I pour the tea, her head tilted just so. I am exhausted, worn thin by her visits, but I cannot let her win. Not yet. My daughter is too young, too bright. She does not deserve this. I want her to grow old naturally, to live without this shadow hanging over her. That hope is all I have left. I keep the journal close, the kettle warm, the shortbread fresh, but I feel myself slipping. She is waiting for me to falter, to say it by accident. I do not know how long I can hold out. The psychological torment is relentless, and sometimes, late at night, I wonder if she is already inside me, whispering the words I cannot say. I was just trying to get through another day at home when everything changed. Life with my brother Greg and our mom was never easy, but it was familiar. Until last week, I walked into the police station that morning, feeling every pair of eyes lock onto me. The officers didn't say much, but I could tell what they were thinking. Their stares followed me down the hall, heavy with suspicion. Did I really kill him? That's what everyone wanted to know after Greg fell from our 11th floor apartment. The neighbors had heard us arguing, yelling loud enough to echo through the thin walls, and the news stations ran with it. I could still hear his voice in my head, sharp and slurred, as I sat down in that cold interview room. An older officer stepped in, his face calm, but his eyes piercing. He waved me to a chair and pulled out a notebook, flipping it open with a slow, deliberate motion. He started with small talk, asking about Greg, about our family. I told him the truth, or at least part of it. Greg was trouble from the start. He'd always been the kind who took what he wanted, even as a kid. I remembered the way he'd snatch my toys and wave that little knife he stole from Dad, daring me to fight back. He got kicked out of schools for things like beating a classmate unconscious or torching a classroom over a bad grade. When Dad died, it was like something snapped in him. He got darker, meaner. I kept it light for the officer, though. No point in making it sound like I hated him. The questions kept coming, and I could feel the air getting heavier. He asked about that night, the night Greg died. I told him it was fuzzy, but I pieced it together as best I could. It started over something dumb, like him leaving the sink full of dirty dishes again. I called him out, and he lost it. His voice was off, thick with something, maybe booze, maybe worse. He screamed, cursed, and I just walked away to my room. Then came the sound, a dull thud from below, followed by Mom's sobs ripping through the apartment. The officer didn't write anything down this time. He just stared, his head tilting slightly. "That's not all of it, is it?" he said, his voice low. I froze. He mentioned scratch marks on Greg's arm, hinting they'd find my DNA. My nails were chipped from that night, and he noticed. He shifted gears, bringing up a name, Abigail. I swallowed hard. She was someone Greg had been seeing, and the officer knew I knew. He said she'd filed a report the day before he died. Claimed Greg tried to kill her, beat her so bad she barely got away. My stomach tightened, but I played dumb. Then he dropped another bomb. Jenna, Greg's ex, missing for months until they found her body chopped up and dumped by some back road. I hadn't known the details, but I'd suspected. The officer leaned in, watching me, like he could see right through my silence. "We think there are more," he said. "Maybe that's why you pushed him." I stood up fast, asking if I was under arrest. He shook his head, so I bolted for the door, my mind racing. Outside, Mom was waiting on a bench, her face lighting up when she saw me. We hugged, and I felt her trembling. I'd never tell them what really happened, how Greg had me pinned by the window that night, a razor pressed to my throat after I confronted him about those girls. How Mom came up behind him, her eyes wild, and shoved him out without a second thought. How she'd done it before, poisoned Dad years ago to stop his violence. She thought killing him would end it, but Greg turned out just like him. As we walked home, her hand tight in mine, I wondered if she had finally found peace. But the weight of her secrets and mine felt heavier than ever. A few months back, I was scrolling through job listings, desperate for some extra cash. Rent was due, and I'd been picking up odd gigs wherever I could. One ad caught my eye. A guy looking for someone to take photos of his property. Simple enough, right? I messaged him, and he got back to me quick. Said to meet him at this old house on the edge of town. I grabbed my camera and headed out, figuring it'd be an easy paycheck. The place was a wreck when I got there. Peeling paint, cracked windows, and a yard choked with weeds. He was waiting on the porch, a tall guy with a scruffy beard and eyes that didn't quite focus. I waved, but he just nodded and told me to follow him inside. The air in that house hit me like a wall, stale, thick with dust and something sour I couldn't place. He led me through rooms cluttered with junk, broken furniture, stacks of yellowed newspapers, a doll with one eye missing. I asked where he wanted me to start, but he dodged the question, muttering about capturing the feel of the place. My gut started to twist, but I brushed it off, probably just nerves. He kept pacing as I snapped photos, his boots scuffing the floor in a weird rhythm. Scrape thud, scrape thud. I glanced at him, and that's when I saw it. A flicker of something wild in his eyes, like he was holding back a laugh. I lowered my camera and asked again where to focus. He stopped moving and just stared. Before I could react, he lunged. His hand clamped around my arm, fingers digging in hard. I yanked back, but he was strong, too strong. My camera hit the floor with a crack as he dragged me toward a door at the end of the hall. I kicked and twisted, my breath coming fast. But he didn't even flinch. The door creaked open, revealing a basement stairwell, dark and narrow. A smell wafted up, rotten, metallic, like old blood. I screamed, and he shoved me forward. My foot caught the edge of a step, and I stumbled, grabbing the railing just in time. He was right behind me, his shadow swallowing the light from above. I didn't think, just ran down, hoping for another way out. The basement was a maze of damp concrete and rusted pipes. I ducked behind a stack of crates, my chest heaving as I listened. His footsteps echoed above, slow and deliberate, like he knew I couldn't go far. Then I saw it. A small window near the ceiling, grimy but big enough to squeeze through. I climbed onto a crate, my hand shaking as I clawed at the latch. It wouldn't budge. His boots hit the stairs, each step louder than the last. I slammed my shoulder against the glass, and it gave, shattering outward. I hauled myself through, cutting my palms on the shards, and bolted into the night. I didn't stop running until I hit the main road, his house fading into the dark behind me. I never went back for my camera. The cops searched the place later, but they didn't find him or anything else. Just an empty house, like no one had ever lived there. I still hear that scraped thud in my head sometimes, late at night when I'm alone. I keep wondering what was down in that basement, what he wanted me to see. The ad's gone from the site now, but I check every listing twice before I reply. Some things stick with you, you know. That feeling of being watched, of almost not making it out. It's not something you shake off easy. Last summer, I was walking home from the store, just a quick trip for some groceries. It was late, the streets quiet except for the hum of crickets. I took my usual shortcut through the park, nothing fancy, just a path between some trees and a playground that's empty after dark. I had my earbuds in, scrolling through my phone, when I noticed her. A woman, maybe 30, pushing a stroller ahead of me. She was moving slow, her steps smooth and gliding, almost like she wasn't touching the ground. I pulled one earbud out, curious, and that's when I heard it. No sound from the stroller wheels. No squeak, no crunch on the gravel. Just silence. I slowed down, keeping my distance. Her hair was matted into one giant, filthy ball, hanging down her back like it hadn't been washed in years. She wore a long coat, too heavy for the warm night, and it swayed with her movements, rhythmic, like a dance. I couldn't see her face, but something about her made my skin prickle. The stroller rocked slightly as she pushed it, but I didn't hear a baby. No cries, no coos, nothing. I told myself it was fine, maybe she was just out for a walk, but my feet wouldn't move faster. I stayed back, watching her glide along the path, the shadows stretching around her. I was locking up the back door of the fish place last week when I first noticed something was wrong. I work nights at this little aquarium on the outskirts of Vysoké Tatry, a quiet mountain town nestled in the high Tatras of Slovakia. It is an odd spot for a place like this. No oceans for miles, just jagged peaks, dense pine forests, and winding trails. The town itself is small, maybe 40,000 people, mostly folks who keep to themselves or cater to the occasional hiker passing through. I never understood why anyone would build an aquarium here surrounded by rocky slopes and cold streams. But when I saw the ad for a security gig a year ago, I did not think twice. The pay was decent, the hours were easy, and the job sounded simple. Walk the halls after closing, keep an eye on things, go home. Most nights, it is just me, the hum of the filters, and the tanks full of carp, trout, eels, and our star attraction, a massive octopus we call Kraken. He is the only thing worth a second glance, maybe the only thing worth stealing, but in a town this sleepy, no one ever bothers. Kraken lives in a huge tank right in the center of the building, his arms stretching out like he owns the place. He is lazy most of the time, floating in slow circles, his deep orange skin catching the dim lights overhead. We get live shrimp shipped in for him, little gray things that dart around until he snags them with a flick of a tentacle. The rest of the fish are local, pulled from rivers and lakes nearby. Nothing exotic, just the kind of stuff you might hook on a weekend fishing trip. Carp, with their dull scales, trout flashing silver, eels slinking through the gravel, catfish with the whiskers that barely move. They sit in smaller tanks lining the walls, each one labeled with faded signs about the region's waterways. My job is straightforward. Show up an hour before closing, herd out the handful of visitors, usually bored locals or lost tourists, and patrol the grounds until the sun comes up. For months, it was a breeze. I would pull up a chair by Kraken's tank, watch him drift through the water, and collect my paycheck. It felt like getting paid to babysit a sea monster. Then one morning, everything turned upside down. It started with a phone call on my day off. My boss, Pavel, rang me up, his voice loud and unsteady, cutting through the quiet of my apartment. Pavel runs the aquarium, but he is not the type to care much. Most days, he is half lost in a bottle of vodka, his desk cluttered with empty glasses and crumpled papers. This time, though, he was different, panicked, almost sober-sounding, shouting that I had to get down there right away. He had heard I spoke some English, picked up from years of late-night TV binges, and he needed me to translate. The owner was in town, he said, and things were about to get messy. I groaned, pulled on my jacket, and drove the winding road to the aquarium, the mountains looming dark against the gray sky. When I walked in, Pavel was pacing the office, sweat beading on his forehead despite the chill. Then I saw him. Dr. Elias Hart, the American who built this place 5 years ago, standing there with a trimmed beard and a strange outfit that looked like a lab coat stitched onto a suit. 2 massive guys flanked him, shaved heads and blank stares, like statues carved from stone. Hart was already yelling when I stepped into the room, his notebook flapping in his hand as he berated Pavel. My boss was a wreck, clutching a bottle, unable to string 2 words together in English. Hart's face was red, his voice sharp, and for a second I thought he might swing that notebook right at Pavel's head. The big guys did not move, just stared at the wall like they were somewhere else. I cleared my throat, offered to help, and started translating as best I could. My English is not perfect, rusty from disuse, but it was enough to get the point across. Hart calmed down once he realized I could bridge the gap, even let out a dry laugh as he laid out his plan. He wanted to replace every fish in the aquarium, 1 tank at a time, over the next few weeks. His men would handle it all, swap out the old stock, bring in the new. We just had to give them space and a spot to dump the leftovers. Pavel's eyes widened as I relayed it. But when I mentioned Kraken, his jaw dropped. Hart grinned, wild and sudden, saying octopuses were yesterday's news. Time to make room for something better. The instructions were precise, delivered in that calm, then crazy tone Hart had. Leave the building empty on replacement nights. Shut off the cameras. No footage, no evidence. Keep the signs up. Act like nothing is changing. If anyone asked about the fish, deny it all. He handed me a crumpled list of dates scribbled on paper with cartooned fish dancing across the top, told me to explain it to Pavel, and walked out. The big guys lingered for a moment, staring at nothing, then followed him to a black van parked outside. Pavel sat there, the list shaking in his hand, muttering about regulations and costs. He looked like he might argue, but the fight drained out of him fast. Next shift, he was sober. First time I had seen him like that, and promised me an extra 150 euros a month to keep my mouth shut. I nodded, pocketed the cash, and let it go. The first replacement night rolled around 2 weeks later, and I took it off, figuring it was not my problem. When I walked in the next evening, the place looked the same. Same tanks, same fish, same quiet hum. But as I dimmed the lights for my rounds, I saw it. The minnows in their little tank were glowing, faint and eerie, like they had swallowed tiny stars. The changes crept in after that, slow and subtle at first. The trout started flicking their tails against the glass, sharp little taps that echoed in the empty halls. The eels picked up speed, weaving through their tanks in tight, restless loops. The catfish whiskers began to twitch, curling and uncurling, like they had minds of their own. I noticed each shift, scribbling notes in my head, but it all blurred into the background after a while. Kraken stayed the same, drifting in his tank, his arms swaying lazy and calm. I would sit by him most nights, the soft slosh of water keeping me company, and tell myself it was fine. The extra money helped. 150 euros buys a lot of peace of mind in a town like this. I wondered what Hart was doing to the fish, what kind of hidden experiments he was running. But I did not dig. Not my job, not my business. Then came the last replacement night. I showed up the next evening, flipped on the lights, and stopped dead. Kraken's tank was dark, clouded with ink like a storm had rolled in. He was pressed against the glass, his slitted eyes tracking me as I moved. The shrimp and fish he used to eat were swimming around him, clustering tight, like they were hiding. Something shifted in the murk, just beyond the edge of sight. I grabbed my phone and called Pavel, thinking the tank was busted. Maybe a filter clogged, maybe something worse. It rang for ages before he picked up, his voice thick and slurred. I tried to explain, but he cut me off fast. Said I was not paid to check the water, just to watch the doors. Told me to leave it alone. I hung up, staring at the cloudy tank, hoping it would clear by morning. It did not. Next night, Kraken looked bad. Bruises mottling his orange skin, dark patches where suckers used to be. The crowd of fish around him was smaller, thinning out. I saw it then. A shape in the shadows, not a fish, not a squid. Arms and legs, small but human-like, moving slow and deliberate. A dull thud snapped my head up. A claw, curved, monkey-like, darted out, swiping at Kraken. He thrashed, pushing it back, and it grabbed a shrimp instead, vanishing into the dark. I dialed Pavel again. He answered, furious, shouting that I should stay away from the main tank. Offered 300 euros to keep quiet. Hung up before I could respond. The line stayed live for a moment. Rustling, faint breathing. Someone else was there, listening in the unsettling silence. I avoided Kraken's tank after that, sticking to the side exhibits. The glowing minnows flickered like ghosts. The trout tapped the glass. The eels zipped around, each one a step in some disturbing transformation I could not unsee. I almost quit that morning, phone in hand, ready to tell Pavel I was out. A fake excuse was on my tongue. Family trouble, anything to get away. But I did not call. The money was too good, and I convinced myself it would be fine if I kept my distance. Next shift, the ticket lady was at her post, grumbling as always. Said no one had complained, no one had noticed. She never left her booth, did not care about the fish. I tried to shrug it off too, pacing the side halls, watching the carp spit water at the glass. But Kraken pulled me back. I stepped into the main room, and the water was clear, too clear. He was dead, floating limp in the center, most of his arms gone, cuts and bruises all over. Then I saw it, the thing that killed him, shaped like a chimp, but with a flat, fish-like face. Fur shimmering in wild colors, reds, blues, greens. It tore into Kraken with claws and teeth, chewing slow. My flashlight slipped, clattered to the floor. The crash made it turn. It swam toward me, gray eyes empty, watching, jaw wide, water swirling with flesh. It stopped, blasted a stream of water, hard, fast. The glass cracked. I ran. It shattered. Water hit me like a wall, knocking me down. I scrambled up, slipping, and saw it flop out, gills heaving, wheezing shrill, then deep. I bolted for the storage room, locked the door. Wet steps splashed past, fading toward the lobby. I called Pavel. No answer. My phone rang. "Professor Hart," he said, calm and cold. I yelled about the escape. He asked what I'd name it. "Fish beast," I shouted as it clawed the door. A sharp tone pierced the air. It stopped, ran off. Hart told me to go home. Come back tomorrow. Said repairs were coming. Glass crashed in the distance as he hung up. I was sitting on my couch last month, scrolling through my phone, when I decided to order that security camera. I live alone in a small house on the edge of Mill Creek, a quiet little town surrounded by thick woods and winding back roads. Nothing much happens here, just the occasional deer wandering through a yard or kids riding bikes down the street. I had been meaning to get something to watch the porch after a package went missing a few weeks back. It was not a big deal, just some cheap socks. But it bugged me enough to drop $30 on a basic doorbell camera from an online store. The setup was easy. Screwed it to the frame, synced it to my phone, and tested the motion alerts with a wave of my hand. The app pinged right away, showing my blurry arm on the screen. Good enough, I thought. That first night, I slept fine, figuring I had added a little peace of mind to my routine. Then, 2 nights later, the alerts started coming in. The first one hit at 2:13 a.m. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, pulling me out of a shallow sleep. Motion detected at front door, the screen read. I rubbed my eyes, opened the app, and squinted at the live feed. Nothing. Just my porch, the wooden steps leading down to the gravel drive, and the faint glow of a street lamp half a block away. Maybe a raccoon had tripped it, I told myself. The woods around here are full of them, always knocking over trash cans. I swiped back to the home screen and tried to settle down, but sleep did not come easy after that. The next night, it happened again. 3:41 a.m., same message, same empty feed. This time I noticed the shadows under the porch light looked sharper, like something had passed through and left them stretched. It was probably nothing, just my tired eyes playing tricks. Still, I saved the clip, figuring I would check it in the morning. That was my first mistake. Morning came gray and cold, the kind of day that makes you want to stay inside with a blanket. I brewed some coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and pulled up the saved footage from the night before. The first few seconds were normal. Empty porch, gravel drive, trees swaying in the wind. Then, for one single frame, something flickered into view. A figure, tall, thin, standing just past the edge of my driveway, where the street lamp's light fades into dark. It was not moving, not walking by, just there. The head was tilted slightly, like it was looking right at the camera. I froze, coffee mug halfway to my mouth, and replayed it. The frame was so quick, I could have missed it. But it was real. No glitch, no shadow trick. My hand shook a little as I deleted it, telling myself it was some late-night wanderer, maybe a neighbor I did not recognize. But that night the alerts came again. 2:13 a.m., 3:41 a.m., 4:59 a.m. Each time I checked the live feed, nothing. Each time I dug into the footage after, and each time that figure was closer. First by the mailbox, then at the driveway's edge, then halfway up the steps. Always just one frame, always watching. After 5 nights of this, I had enough. I called the sheriff's office, my voice shaky as I explained the alerts, the footage, the figure creeping closer. Deputy Harris came by that afternoon, a stocky guy with a clipboard and a flashlight clipped to his belt. I showed him the clips, pointing out the frames where the shape appeared. He frowned, scratching his jaw. "Could be a sensor glitch," he said, "or some kid messing with you. We'll drive by tonight. Keep an eye out." He walked the property, shining his light under the porch, along the tree line, down the road. He found nothing. No footprints in the gravel. No signs anyone had been there. I thanked him, feeling a bit lighter as he drove off. That night, I managed to doze off, the hum of the heater lulling me into a fragile calm. Then my phone buzzed. 4:27 a.m. Motion detected at front door. I opened the app, dreading the feed. The figure was there, standing right on my porch this time. Not a blur, not a shadow. A clear shape, tall and still, with a face that was not right. Too flat, too perfect, like a mask with no depth. I dropped the phone onto the bed, my breath catching. I called the sheriff again. 2 deputies showed up, searched the yard, checked the footage. Nothing. But as one stepped onto the porch, he paused, pointing at the doorknob. "You touched this lately?" he asked. I shook my head. The metal was slick, coated with a thin sheen of moisture, like someone had held it for a long, slow minute. The next day, I stayed home from work, blinds shut, lights dim. I kept the app open, refreshing the feed every few minutes. No alerts came, not at noon, not at dusk. I started to think maybe it was over, that the deputies had scared off whatever was out there. Then, right at midnight, my phone buzzed again. I tapped the app, and the screen went black. Not offline, just pure dark, like something was pressed against the lens. My chest tightened. I grabbed a baseball bat from the closet, gripping it tight as I edged toward the front door. A knock sounded, soft, slow, deliberate. I stopped, air trapped in my lungs. Another knock followed, louder this time, echoing through the quiet house. I checked the app again. The feed was still black, but the microphone was live. I hit the audio button, my voice barely a whisper. "Who is out there?" Silence stretched on, heavy and thick. Then a voice came through, low, raspy, so quiet I almost missed it. "I know you are watching." The bat slipped in my sweaty hands. I backed away, sliding down against the wall, and stayed there until dawn, eyes locked on the door, waiting for another sound that never came. Sunlight filtered through the cracks in the blinds the next morning, weak and pale. I forced myself to check the app, expecting nothing, or maybe hoping for it. The motion log had a new entry, 3:19 a.m., but the message was different this time. Not "motion detected at front door," just 2 words, "presence confirmed." My throat went dry. I had not set up any fancy features, no motion zones, no smart detection. I tapped the entry, hands trembling, and the app lagged, the screen flickering. For a split second, an image loaded. Not the porch, not the driveway, but my living room, me, slumped against the wall, bat across my lap, eyes wide in the dark. The feed cut out, and the app crashed. I yanked the camera off the door, ripped out the battery, and tossed it into a drawer. But my phone buzzed again. The app reopened on its own, live feed running, showing the empty porch through a camera that was not even plugged in. I tried to delete it. Nothing. Shut off my phone, still there when it rebooted. Turned off the Wi-Fi. The feed kept rolling. I stood there, staring at the screen, my breath shallow, until another alert popped up. Motion detected. Not at the front door this time. Inside living room. I looked up. The house was silent. too silent. Something creaked behind me. I am writing this now, locked in my bedroom, the phone on the dresser still buzzing with alerts. The camera is not connected, but the app keeps recording clips of my kitchen, my hallway, my reflection in the bathroom mirror as I passed by earlier. Each one is time-stamped. Each one is new. The last alert came 5 minutes ago. Presence confirmed in bedroom. I turned on every light, checked every corner. Nothing is here, but the footage shows something different. A shadow, tall and thin, standing at the foot of my bed, head tilted just like before. It does not move, does not leave, just watches. I keep the bat close, but it feels useless. The alerts are coming faster now. Every minute, every 30 seconds. The latest one says, "Motion detected behind you." I cannot turn around. I hear it now, a faint shuffle, soft and steady, like bare feet on carpet. The air feels heavy, pressing down. My phone screen flickers, and the feed shifts. Not my bedroom, but me, sitting here, typing how this, the shadow looming closer. I do not know what it wants. I do not know how to stop it. All I know is it sees me, and it is not leaving. If you've got a story like mine, something that's kept you up at night, something you can't explain, send it my way. I'm always looking for more creepy family secrets, haunted past tales, or unexplained deaths to share. Drop them at duskynights45gmail.com, and I'll read every one. I put out new stuff every Monday to Friday, so hit that subscribe button if you want to keep up. Keeps the lights on and the stories coming. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time with more eerie encounters and psychological horror to dig into. Stay safe out there